I hear the scream first to high, piercing whinny that doesn't belong on my farm. Not that sound. Never that sound. My coffee mug hits the porch boards as I bolt down the steps, boots pounding across sun-baked dirt. The morning light slants golden through the oaks, but there's nothing peaceful about this day anymore. Something's wrong. Another scream tears through the air fern. My prize mare. I round the corner of the barn at full sprint and freeze. 20 yards ahead, inside the east paddock, my beautiful chestnut mare dances backward, ears pinned flat against her skull. Jet, the untested, barely handled rescue stallion we brought in last week, rears up. Massive hooves slashing air mere inches from Fern's flanks. His eyes roll white with panic, nostrils flared red. And there stands Sierra, my 19-year-old sister, leaning against the fence, cell phone raised, filming. They look cute together, don't they? She doesn't even look up. My heart pounds against my ribs as I approach the gate with measured steps. One wrong move could trigger a kick or bite that would destroy years of careful breeding work or worse. Don't move, I say, voice deadly calm. Don't speak, don't do anything. Sierra rolls her eyes but stays put as I ease through the gate, making my movements slow and deliberate. Fern spots me and whinnies again, a desperate sound that twists my stomach. I've known this mare since she took her first wobbly steps in my foaling barn 7 years ago. 5 agonizing minutes later, I've separated them, leading Fern to safety in her own paddock and securing Jet in the round pen. My hands tremble against Fern's warm neck as I check for injuries. What exactly were you thinking? I asked Sierra, who's still scrolling through her phone, reviewing her footage. I was trying to help speed up your breeding program. She shrugs as if she'd merely rearranged my kitchen cabinets. You said Fern was ready to breed this season. With a carefully selected, disease-tested stallion, not with a rescue who hasn't cleared quarantine. My voice shakes with the effort of controlling it. I specifically told you Jet stays isolated until his blood work comes back. Sierra glances up, her bored expression never changing. It would have been fine if you hadn't overreacted. The realization hits me like a physical blow. This wasn't a careless mistake. She deliberately ignored my instructions that could mean life or death on a horse farm. Just a week ago, I'd stood in this very spot, watching my parents' SUV disappear down the driveway after dropping Sierra off for her summer character-building experience. She needs to learn responsibility from someone she respects. Mom had insisted not meeting my eyes. What she meant was, we've tried everything else and failed. I'd laid out my expectations clearly. This is a working farm, not a vacation. There are rules here for a reason. Sierra had rolled her eyes then too, especially when I walked her through the isolation protocols for new horses. Whatever, she'd muttered, already typing on her phone. The warning signs had piled up all week. Expensive tack left out in the rain, safety briefings ignored while she texted, complaints about the 5 a.m. feeding schedule, and yesterday the empty beer bottles I'd found half hidden behind the hay storage, despite my explicit rule against alcohol on the property. But this was different. This was deliberate endangerment of animals worth tens of thousands of dollars. Animals I love. I pull out my phone with white-knuckled fingers and dial the emergency vet. We need blood work on both horses immediately, I tell Dr. Hefner. And Fern might need a sedative. She's badly spooked. Sierra doesn't even look up during my call, just keeps texting, one foot propped casually against the fence post. Dr. Hefner arrives within 30 minutes, her face grim as she examines both horses. You're lucky we didn't have deaths today, she says quietly, glancing toward Sierra, who's wandered off toward the barn. A stallion in that state could have killed your mare or any human who got between them. I watch her work, something cold and clear crystallizing inside me. When Sierra saunters back with a soda from my refrigerator, I meet her eyes. Pack your things, I say, my voice quiet but edged with steel. You're leaving. Now. She blinks, genuinely surprised for the first time. Because of this, don't be so dramatic. Because some mistakes can't be undone. I turn away to help the vet, my decision as solid as the fence posts anchored in concrete. And this wasn't even a mistake. What would you do if someone you tried to help deliberately endangered everything you've spent your life building? Would you forgive family for putting lives at risk, or would you draw a line in the sand? I just drew mine. $2,300. The invoice glows accusingly from my laptop screen at 2:13 a.m., its itemized list stretching down the page. The house creaks around me, empty except for my ragged breathing and the slow ticking of Grandpa's wall clock. Emergency farm call, $175. Sedation mare, $120. Full blood panel stallion, $460. Full blood panel mare, $460. I rub my gritty eyes, shoulders aching from the day's tension. 6 hours since Dr. Hefner left. 6 hours since I stood in the gravel drive watching my sister's borrowed suitcase disappear into our parents' car, her face blank behind the passenger window. Rabies tetanus boosters precautionary, $198. Antibiotic injections, $245. Follow-up visit scheduled, $95. The numbers blur. I shut the laptop and push back from my grandfather's oak desk, the chair like scraping against hardwood. Down the hallway, past framed certificates and ribbons spanning 30 years of breeding history, I step onto the back porch. The night air carries the sweet scent of Timothy hay and distant pine. I make my way to Fern's paddock by flashlight. She stands quiet in her stall, ears pricking forward at my approach. The bandage on her flank glows white in the beam of light. "Hey, pretty girl." My whisper breaks the silence. "How you holding up?" Fern pushes her velvet muzzle against my palm. A sob catches in my throat, raw and unexpected. They could have died today. My fingers trace the curve of her neck, finding the barely perceptible tremble that still runs through her muscles. "I'm sorry." The words fall into darkness. I should have known better. Back in the house, my phone vibrates against the kitchen counter. I ignore it, already knowing. Sierra's Instagram story plays automatically when I open the app. Her face pressed close to our mother's, both frowning with identical expressions of wounded indignation. The caption reads, "Some people can't take a simple mistake, Below, comments pile up. Relatives and hometown friends I haven't spoken to in years suddenly have opinions about my overreaction. She was only trying to help, so dramatic. Family should come first, no matter what. Give her another chance, she's just a kid. Just a kid." The words stick like burrs. Sierra is 19, old enough to vote, old enough to join the military, old enough to understand that actions have consequences. Old enough to know exactly what she was doing. A text from Aunt Martha pops up. Sierra's heartbroken. She was just trying to be helpful around the farm. I don't respond. Instead, I open my laptop again, finding the security footage Marco insisted we install last spring. The timestamps tell the real story. Sierra walking deliberately past 3 warning signs on Jet's isolation pen. Her studying the lock mechanism. The casual way she scrolled through her phone while leading my stallion straight toward Fern's paddock. Not a mistake. A choice. A memory surfaces me cousin's wedding 2 years ago. Sierra accidentally spilling red wine on the bride's mother after being told her dress was inappropriate. The boat she borrowed from her ex-boyfriend's family that somehow ended up with a damaged propeller. The pattern stretches back for years. My fingers hover over the invoice on my screen. One click would forward it to my parents with a payment request. One click would state clearly, "I will not absorb the cost of Sierra's choices anymore." Behind me on the wall, 3 generations of horses stare from their frames. My grandfather astride his first Tennessee Walker, my grandmother's careful logs of bloodlines and confirmation traits, my own first blue ribbon at 12. 23 years of building something that matters. My mouse cursor settles over the forward button. "No more," I whisper to the empty room. The sun breaks over the eastern ridge as Marco steps through the barn door, travel mug in hand. His weathered face tightens when he spots the yellow invoice on the clipboard. "Jesus," he mutters, scanning the items. "She could have killed them both." "I know. You sent it to your folks yet?" I nod, the weight of the morning pressing down. 20 minutes ago. Marco's hand settles briefly on my shoulder. About damn time. My phone rings 10 minutes later. Mother's name flashes on the screen. Cassidy, Ann Harmon, what is this? Her voice pitches high with indignation. $2,000? She's just a girl. She made a mistake. I watch a red-tailed hawk circle over the east pasture, its wings catching early light. She deliberately put my animals in danger after I explicitly told her not to. She was trying to help. No, she wasn't. My voice remains steady, surprising even me. The security cameras show otherwise. This is ridiculous. My father's voice cuts in from the extension. You've always been too hard on her. She came home devastated. I close my eyes, feeling Marco's solid presence nearby. The years of work beneath my boots, the quiet strength of boundaries finally drawn. This isn't about punishment, I tell them. It's about consequences. I end the call before they can respond, turning toward the barn where life continues regardless of family drama. Hay needs hauling, water troughs need filling, and Fern needs her morning check. For the first time since Sierra arrived, I breathe freely on my own land. Have you ever had to stand firm when family expected you to absorb the cost of someone else's carelessness? What price would be too high to pay for keeping the peace? My phone buzzes for the 9th time this morning. I don't need to look at the screen to know it's another family member weighing in on my cruelty. I slide it face down on the worn oak desk, where my grandfather used to calculate feed ratios and breeding schedules, back when this farm first took root in Oregon soil. The text started trickling in 3 days ago. By yesterday, they'd become a flood. She's just a teenager, Cassidy. We all make mistakes at that age. Aunt Marlene, you've always been too hard on her. Remember when you were 18 and crashed Dad's truck? Uncle Rick, conveniently forgetting I paid for every penny of those repairs. Call me. We need to talk about the Sierra situation. Mom. 7 times. I slide open the bottom drawer and place the phone with the other screen captures of every message, every missed call log, every voicemail transcription. The file folder is already thick with documentation. Dr. Hefner's detailed incident report sits on top, along with the security camera invoice. Marco approaches from the feed storage, clipboard in hand. His weathered face registers concern before he even speaks. Feed store called, said your order's ready, but... He hesitates, shifts his weight. Joyce mentioned people are talking. About Sierra. I nod once, jaw tight. What version are they hearing? That you threw your baby sister out over nothing. That she was just trying to help and made a little mistake. His eyes, blind from 30 years squinting into sun-drenched arenas, hold steady on mine. Joyce said she set them straight about what could have happened. But folks love drama more than facts. Aunt Lydia called the farm line yesterday, I tell him. Sierra gave some tearful interview about how I've always hated her and was just waiting for an excuse. The words scrape my throat. Apparently I'm jealous. She's the pretty one. Marco snorts. Security cameras arrived today. I'll have Hank install them at both gates. I nod, grateful for his efficiency. Twice now I found the padlocks unlatched. Not broken unlatched. Someone with a key. I'll be in the tack room, I say. The Portland client is coming at 11 to see Whisper's colt. As I walk away, I realize something strange. The knot of guilt I've carried since Sierra left has dissolved. In its place sits something solid and clear as quartz crystal. Not anger, not resentment. Just certainty. The farmer's market bustles under cloudless summer skies. Saturday crowds meander between stalls of fresh produce and local crafts. I'm here for coffee beans from Theo's Roastery and to drop off flyers for next month's open house. I spot them before they see me, Mom, Dad, and Sierra clustered near the honey stand. Sierra leans against Dad's shoulder, looking fragile in a way she never did at my farm. I could turn around, walk away, avoid the confrontation that's clearly been staged for maximum public impact. I don't... Cassidy, Mom calls, her voice carrying above the market chatter. Heads turn, exactly as intended. Thank goodness, we've been trying to reach you. I approach slowly, painfully aware of the curious stares from both strangers and familiar faces. Mrs. Hanover from the Quilt Guild, Tom who runs the hardware store, Pastor Wells with his wife. This isn't the place, I say quietly when I reach them. Mom's eyes flash. Apparently nowhere is the place since you won't answer our calls or texts. You've left us no choice. Sierra sniffles dramatically, drawing sympathetic glances from passing shoppers. You're tearing this family apart over money. Mom's voice rises, deliberately pitched to Carrie. $2,000 versus your own sister? The unfairness of it steals my breath. $2,000 and 2 horses, nearly injured or killed. $2,000 and the violation of explicit safety protocols. $2,000 and the deliberate endangerment of animals worth tens of thousands and irreplaceable to me. Dad steps forward, using his bulk to create the sense of intimidation he perfected during 30 years in real estate. You need to reconsider your position, Cassidy. Family comes first. A small crowd is gathered now, pretending interest in nearby stalls while watching our drama unfold. I feel their eyes, their judgment, the weight of small-town scrutiny. I straighten my spine, meeting my father's gaze directly. You're right, I say, my voice quiet but clear. Family does come first. That's why I can't allow Sierra back on my property. Because family protects what matters. Family respects boundaries. Family doesn't deliberately put lives at risk and then laugh about it. Sierra's fake sniffles stop abruptly. Her eyes narrow. I have video of what happened, I continue, my calm surprising even me. I have the vet's report detailing exactly how close we came to disaster. I have documentation of every safety rule Sierra knowingly broke, and I have the right to decide who's welcome on my property. A voice speaks from behind me. She's right, you know. Dr. Hefner stands there, market basket over her arm, her gray hair catching sunlight. What happened on Cassidy's farm could have ended with dead horses and injured people. In 30 years as a vet, I've rarely seen such blatant disregard for safety. From the cheese stall, Jim Cooper, whose farm borders mine, calls out, Cassidy runs the finest breeding operation in the county. If she says there was danger, there was danger. The crowd shifts, murmurs, the tide turns. Without another word, I walk away, leaving my family standing in stunned silence among the weekend shoppers. When I return home, I find Marco at the gate, arms crossed. Your folks showed up while you were gone, he says. Got pretty worked up when I wouldn't let them in. Hank had to suggest they leave before he called the sheriff. I nod, unsurprised. Thanks. That night, I brush Fern's gleaming coat by lantern light, the rhythmic strokes soothing us both. The mare leans into the curry comb, eyes half closed in contentment. You know what Grandpa used to say about fences? I murmured to her. A fence isn't just to keep things out, it's to protect what's within. My phone sits silent on the shelf. I turned off notifications hours ago. For the first time since Sierra's banishment, I sleep through the night, dreamless and deep. Morning finds me on the porch, coffee steam rising in the dawn light, watching my horses move like shadows through the mist-draped pastures. The boundaries I've drawn stand firm as the fences that crosshatch my land. Not to punish, not from spite, but to protect what matters. The manila folder sits heavy in my hands, thick with evidence I never wanted to collect. Through the farmhouse window, I watch Fern graze in the east paddock, her chestnut coat gleaming in the morning sun. 2 weeks since Sierra's recklessness, and my mare still startles at sudden movements. I flip open the folder. Security footage screenshots fan across my kitchen table, Sierra unlatching Jed's stall, deliberately removing the quarantine sign, leading him toward Fern's paddock. The timestamp matches exactly what I told my parents, what they refused to believe. You think this is enough? Marco leans against my refrigerator, arms crossed over his chest. Has to be. I slide Dr. Hefner's report next to the photos. Her clinical language doesn't soften the reality. Significant stress, induced immune compromise, potential exposure to multiple pathogens, breeding value potentially compromised. Marco watches as I organize the timeline of events, complete with witness statements from the feed delivery man who saw Sierra ignore my explicit instructions. Last comes Janine's letter. My attorney's precise legal language outlining liability in black and white. My phone buzzes again. Mom. The text bubbles with emotional blackmail. Blood is thicker than water, Cassidy. Family comes first, always. I silence it without responding, but another notification pings Dad this time. You keep this up, and we'll need to reconsider your place in the will. Subtle, Marco mutters, reading over my shoulder. My laptop chimes with an email alert. 3 new 1-star reviews on my farm's business page, posted from freshly created accounts. Vague complaints about unprofessional behavior and hostile environment. Anonymous, but I recognize Sierra's phrasing. They're escalating, I say. The video from Sierra arrives next, their face tear-stained, voice breaking with what might look like genuine remorse to someone who doesn't know her patterns. I've learned my lesson, Cass, I promise. Please let me come back. I close it before it finishes. She's good, always has been. I slide Janine's cover letter on top of the stack, facts without accusation, events without emotion. Below it, the boundary statement. 3 paragraphs that took me hours to write, defining what happens next. What's non-negotiable? What reconciliation would require? This isn't about punishment, I tell Marco as I seal the envelope. It's about protection. My hand doesn't shake as I add it to the outgoing mail. The community charity auction hums with conversation that dies down when I enter. I spot my parents across the room, their faces tightening when they see me. Mom clutches Dad's arm, whispering urgently. Several people nod respectfully in my direction, fellow horse owners who understand what Sierra's actions truly meant. Betty Lawrence, our county's most respected breeder, approaches me directly. Heard what happened, she says, loud enough for nearby clusters to hear. You did right by those horses. Some folks don't understand our responsibility to these animals isn't optional. I feel my parents' stares burning into my back. The whispers ripple outward, and for once, they aren't Sierra's version of events. My attorney's formal cease and desist regarding the fake reviews went out yesterday, and word travels fast in small towns. I hold my head high, offering no explanations or defenses. My silence speaks volumes. 2 days later, I'm grooming Fern when Marco jogs toward me across the paddock, phone extended. You need to see this. On his screen, the community Facebook group where Sierra has spent the past week painting herself as the victim. A respected trainer has weighed in, explaining in excruciating detail why putting an untested stallion with a breeding mare creates liability no professional would tolerate. Others have joined fellow breeders, longtime clients, even Dr. Hefner herself. Measured, professional responses demolishing Sierra's narrative without ever mentioning her name. She's gone quiet, Marco says, scrolling through Sierra's suddenly inactive profiles. No new posts since yesterday. My phone chimes with a text from Mom. I brace myself for another emotional appeal, but what I read stops me cold. I saw the vet report. We need to talk. Before I can respond, another message appears, this one from Dad. Not quite an apology, but the closest he's capable of. Your grandfather would have done the same thing. A third text arrives from my Aunt Celia, who'd been firmly in Sierra's camp. Just spoke with your mother. I think I misunderstood what happened. I set the phone down, my reflection steady in the mirror. The first cracks have appeared in their unified defense. Not surrender, not yet understanding, but hairline fractures and absolute certainty. The boundaries I've drawn aren't just fences to keep people out. They're foundations to build something that can last. Where do you draw the line between forgiveness and enabling bad behavior? When is it necessary to stand firm even when it hurts those you love? I already know my answer. I'm living it. I spot them through the plate glass window of Porter's Steakhouse, me family huddled around a corner table, like mourners at a wake. Mom straightens the silverware. Dad checks his watch. Uncle Jim nurses a whiskey, and Sierra stares at her phone, thumbs flying across the screen. My stomach tightens. I take a breath and adjust my grip on the leather portfolio tucked under my arm. You sure about this? Marco asks beside me, his voice low. No, I admit, but I'm doing it anyway. The restaurant door feels unexpectedly heavy as I push through. Heads turn not just my family's, but other diners who recognize me from the farmer's market or feed store. Small towns have long memories. Mom spots me first. Her face brightens with rehearsed hope. Cassidy, we saved you a seat. She pats the empty chair between her and Dad. I slide into a chair at the opposite end instead, placing Marco to my right. The power shift is immediate and visible, their shoulders tense, eyes darting between us. This is Marco Delgado, my stable manager, I say. He's here as a witness. Dad's jaw tightens. A witness? This is a family dinner, not a court proceeding. Is it? I fold my hands on the table, because the text message I received mentioned intervention. Mom sets down her water glass with a deliberate clink. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. We're concerned about your spiritual well-being, honey. Holding on to resentment like this isn't what good Christians do. Forgiveness is a virtue, Uncle Jim adds, leaning forward. Sierra finally looks up from her phone. Her eyes are red-rimmed, practiced tears ready to fall. I made a mistake, Cass. I'm really sorry. Your grandmother would want us to make peace, Dad says, his voice softening. The Harmon legacy matters. Blood ties don't break over one incident. I place my portfolio on the table and open it, revealing neatly organized documents. This wasn't an incident, I say, my voice steady. It was deliberate endangerment. Jet was a rescue stallion with unknown medical history. Fern is a broodmare worth $30,000. I tap a photo showing Jet's hooves inches from Fern's head. Her screams still wake me up at night. Sierra shifts in her seat. You've always been dramatic. Dr. Hefner's report. I continue, sliding a document forward. She confirms both horses suffered severe trauma. Fern's breeding cycle was disrupted, setting back my program by months. Uncle Jim clears his throat. Look, what if we split the difference? You drop this whole thing, and Sierra promises to be more careful in the future. He winks. Compromise is how families work. I straighten my spine. I'm not interested in compromise. I'm interested in respect. Mom reaches for my hand. I pull back. For any relationship to continue between us, I say, I need 3 things, non-negotiable. I withdraw another document and place it centered on the table. First, payment of the vet bill, $2,347.18. This acknowledges responsibility. Dad's face flushes dark red. Second, a public apology posted to the same social media accounts where Sierra damaged my professional reputation with false claims. Sierra's practiced tears vanish. Her jaw tightens. Third, complete respect for my property and business boundaries going forward. Written acknowledgement that my farm, my horses, and my rules are to be respected without question. I close the portfolio, my terms hanging in the air between us. That's ridiculous. Dad explodes, slamming his fist down. Water glasses topple. You think your horses matter more than your own flesh and blood? Richard, Mom gasps, her mask slipping entirely. No, I'm done pretending. Dad continues, voice rising. She's always been impossible and judgmental, just like her grandmother. Thinks she's better than everyone. Mom's shoulders collapse. Real tears streak her makeup, not the careful, controlled drops she's perfected over years of family performances. We've tried everything, she whispers, mostly to herself. Why won't you just let it go? Because some things should not be let go. My voice remains quiet, forcing them to lean in. Some boundaries, once crossed, change everything. Sierra's face transforms, the facade of contrition replaced by naked resentment. You think you're so perfect on your precious farm, she hisses. Some of us make mistakes. Some of us aren't ancient and boring at 35. Cassidy, please. Mom pleads, reaching across the table. She's young, she doesn't understand. That's exactly the problem. I stand. Marco rises beside me. You've never expected her to understand consequences. Dad pushes his chair back. If you walk out that door, don't expect. Don't expect what? I interrupt. The same unconditional support you've always given me? The bitter laugh escapes before I can stop it. Sierra snorts. Drama queen. The vet bill is due by the end of the month. I say quietly. The rest is up to you. As we walk out, I feel their stares burning into my back. The evening air hits my face like freedom. In the truck, Marco waits until I buckle my seatbelt before asking, "You okay?" I look back at the restaurant window, where my family remains frozen in the aftermath of a storm they created but never saw coming. "No," I answer truthfully, "but I will be. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Some shouldn't be." The knowledge settles inside me, not as defeat, but as foundation solid ground on which to stand. The morning frost crunches beneath my boots as I cross the east paddock. 1 year. 365 sunrises since I watched my family's SUV peel down the gravel drive, Sierra's angry face framed in the back window. I pause at the fence line where it happened, where Jet's hooves slashed air inches from Fern's flanks while my sister filmed. The memory no longer burns like it did. Just aches, like an old break that tells you when rain's coming. "Good girl," I murmur as Fern approaches, her chestnut coat gleaming in the dawn light. Behind her, 3 spring foals dance through morning mist, the first generation of my expanded breeding program. Bloodlines carefully selected, temperaments meticulously matched. No accidents, no shortcuts. Marco appears at the barn door, clipboard in hand. New client called. The Hendersons want to see Northern Lights colt. He grins, words getting around about Clearwater standards. I nod, allowing myself a moment of quiet pride. The waiting list grows longer, each month serious buyers willing to pay premium prices for horses with confirmed lineages and even temperaments. My reputation for integrity has spread beyond the valley. "And Katie's coming at 4 for her lesson," Marco adds. Katie Sullivan, 14 years old, with a natural seat and eyes that light up around horses. Not like Sierra's bored indifference. This girl hangs on every word about proper horse handling, stays late to help with evening feed, asks questions that show she's actually listening. "I'll have Northern Light ready for the Hendersons." I glance toward the western paddock, where Jet grazes peacefully. The gelding operation last summer transformed him into a gentle companion horse, his dangerous stallion days behind him. Another careful decision that proved right. That evening, as darkness settles over the farm, I find myself on the back porch surrounded by my chosen family, Marco, and his husband, Dr. Hefner, 2 neighboring farmers who stood by me during the worst of it. We toast the farm's best financial year with glasses of Oregon Pinot Noir. No drama, no manipulation, just straightforward friendship built on mutual respect. To clear boundaries, Dr. Hefner says, raising her glass, "She knows what it cost me. The gathering ends early, horses. Don't care if you stayed up late celebrating, but it fills something in me that family gatherings never did. Peace, maybe. Belonging without conditions." Mom calls every other Sunday now. Our conversations remain careful, like crossing ice that might not hold, but genuine in their awkward way. She asks about the horses by name, sends birthday cards that don't contain guilt trips. Small steps. Dad hasn't spoken to me since the family meeting at Riverbank Restaurant, when I placed the vet bill and security footage on the table. Some fences, once erected, stand permanent. The rest of the family split like a herd, separating some following my parents' lead, others reaching out with tentative understanding after the dust settled. Aunt Kate sent a handwritten note. "Your grandfather would have been proud of how you protected what matters." The letter arrives exactly 1 year to the day. Sierra's handwriting on cream stationery, postmarked from Seattle, where she's apparently started college. I take it to Fern's paddock before opening it, needing the mare's solid presence nearby. I knew what I was doing that day. I knew the horses weren't supposed to be together. I wanted to show you couldn't control everything. What I didn't understand was that someone could have died Fern, Jet, even you. I didn't think about consequences, because no one ever made me face any. You're the only person who ever held the line with me. Everyone else just moved their boundaries whenever I pushed hard enough. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just wanted you to know I finally understand what you were protecting. No apology, no request to come back, just recognition of truth. I fold the letter carefully, tuck it into my jacket pocket. Fern nudges my shoulder while across the property, Jet lifts his head at the sound of evening feed bins being prepared. Maybe someday, I whisper, but not today. The sunset paints long shadows across the valley as I stand between the two securely fenced fields. My hand rests on the metal gate that separates Thema boundary visible from space. A protection, not a prison. Fern approaches from one side, Jet from the other. Both stop at a respectful distance, waiting, trusting my judgment. Some lines shouldn't be crossed, I say to the gathering darkness. That's not coldness, that's care.